this is Pig for Life, and in today's P4L review we'll be taking a look at Mastermind Creations reformatted line, their R-22 Boreas, the Enforcer, and this is a version of Cyclonus. It's really hard to say what version of this Cyclonus he's intended to be. Reformatted line is really supposed to be more the meets the eye / IDW characters, but as we get into the review, we'll see that this guy is kind of a weird blend. Starting off with packaging review, we do get the same kind of box that we've been getting from the reformatted line for a long time, but it does look like they did permanently get rid of the box flap. I thought it might just be because some of the latest figures were packaged in alt mode, but this guy's in robot mode and no box flap, so that's kind of a bummer. On the side here, you do get some more renders and his name and title. Up on the top, you get to see him with his one horn and his more than meets the eye face. On this side here, kind of more the same. On the bottom, you get all the warnings and stuff like that, where you can visit more than Mastermind Creations on their Facebook page and so forth, their YouTube channel and everything like that. And then on the back is where we get more of the promo images. So we get to see him mostly in robot mode. Over here at the top right, you can see that he has two heads. He comes with his kind of more than meets the eye thin, angular face. And then you get this one, which I don't really know what this is supposed to be reminiscent of. It doesn't really look like G1. Doesn't really look like a toy from what I can tell. So it's kind of weird. You do get to see his alt mode and robot mode. His sword, he does come with one sword. That's the only accessory he comes with. And then his various poses and so forth. Alright, so that's it for packaging on the outside. On the inside, you do get a clamshell. That is pretty standard MMC fare. And as I said, you do get some accessories. So you get this sword in a little baggie. You get his stat card, his comic book / instruction manual, and his alternate head. Okay, so let's start off with his stat card. Nice plastic stat card that we've been seeing. The color on here and on the box is quite different than what we're gonna actually see. You can even see it here. This is a very light, almost like blue slate, very little purple. And on the back you do see some artwork as well as his stats. Alright, put that off to the side. Let's look at his instruction manual. Well, I guess this way would be the instruction manual. And then you see he doesn't come with a lot. And then you get some instructions. You also get Decumus, which is already released. He released like a week earlier. And then on the other side, you get issue 22 of the comic, which again is one issue actually behind since Decumus was already released. But again, really nice artwork. Shout out to the team Mars19 and Michael Ryland for the story. Alright. You do get some previews usually when you look into the comic to see what upcoming releases are. I don't want to spoil that for anyone, or the story if you guys want that. So we'll go into these in just a bit. Let's actually free him from his clamshell. It does come packaged in robot mode, like I said. They do actually give you a little bit of protection on his chest and paint, because that's where he does have most of his paint apps with this little plastic film. Get that out of the way. And we can go ahead and look at what he looks like in robot mode. So robot mode, he's very interesting. So let's say he comes out packaged like this, which he does. You can flip these down. The arms, I think they should go like this. He has a bunch of rotating pieces around the arms, but really just the lower forearm. Rotate that around and rotate the hands around. Like so. Nice tight, and then the thighs, or the thigh covers, or whatever you want to call it, the thigh armor. And then the backpack, you can really do what you want. I think they have it like this, typically. But I actually kind of like it like this. So you kind of have these angled out, and they're almost like short wings. And they're on a couple double hinges, so I like to have it angled back. But really, it's up to you how you want to get this guy posed. Alright, let's just have him stand like that for now. Really quickly, let's look at his sword. His sword is kind of like the sword he has in More Than Meets the Eye that he picks up. It is just molded in gray. It would be nice to have some silver here, but it does have a lot of paint detail, gold on these little pieces, kind of gunmetal down here, a little splotch of kind of the bluish purple. And on this side, you have like a pin or metal or something like that. And the reason for that is along the back here, these two black pieces are where you can mount the sword. So you can have it like mount here, like that, and if you want to have it folded back like they recommend, you can have him posed with it that way. And it does work also in alt mode. And obviously you can plug this into his hand. And because of the way his hands can angle, you can actually have him kind of properly hold it downward. It's hard to get him with both hands posed, but you can actually do it. Just don't feel like bothering doing that now. So let's put that off to the side. I guess we should do a quick 360 before we get into the head. So, 360 wise, starting off with the front. This part here bothers me a lot. Like I said, from this mold, this is the third use of this mold, I think. The chest just doesn't, and upper body just doesn't look like More Than Meets the Eye Cyclonus at all, in terms of, you know, just the shape and the details. I mean, the More Than Meets the Eye design is pretty plain. There's not a lot of surface details or panel lines or anything like that. He doesn't have, you know, the kind of the rounded pieces that you usually see on Cyclonus' shoulders. They do have the different color forearms and chest or rest of the body, kind of like the G1 color. And this is kind of like the movie G1 movie color that he has, the really lighter blue. He sometimes was seen as more of a darker purple, and in More Than Meets the Eye, the comic, he's almost like a pinkish purple. A lot of times, definitely a darker purple like this, with maybe a little bit of pink, and that could just be the way they, you know, always did the weird lighting in More Than Meets the Eye. And again, all this stuff just doesn't, it looks a little off. Coming around to the side, he does have a pretty hefty backpack, but again, you can kind of arrange that how you'd like. As far as hollowness, you don't get a lot of hollowness, which is great. But yeah, he just has a little bit of funkiness going on. So, I did want to talk about the head really quickly. So the head sculpt, the stock one looks really nice in terms of accuracy to More Than Meets the Eye. He has those kind of big black sections, almost like, I don't know, like dimples, red metallic eyes. He has, you know, how More Than Meets the Eye started out with him having one horn that was shot off and so forth. Some people are complaining why we've had this be the iconic view of Cyclonus, given that he's only had one horn for about a year, 2 years, but he's had two horns since then for like 4 years. And that's a really good point. And others were complaining that you only have one horn. So one thing I did explore in quite detail before I started this review was seeing if you can actually use the get a 2-horn version. So I'm taking this off just to show you a couple of things. So first of all, the shapes are by and large the same for the two helmets. And you can see this one. This one, again, I don't know where this is coming from. He has like weird lines on his cheeks. And he has yellow eyes. I don't remember him having yellow eyes like ever. And then he has a weird crest. I'm sure somebody's going to point out like it's some version that I'm not recalling. In any case, what I wanted to point out is when you actually get down here, you'll see that the two halves of each are actually different. Here, let me move this out of the way. I think it's trying to focus there. The two halves are actually quite different. This one is a straight line, and this one is actually molded so that it wraps around the ball joint, or the ball peg, which is really interesting. I don't know why they molded it differently. So, what that means is you can't use this back on here because this molded piece is there, but you can use this back on here. And so you're saying, well, then I can get the weird face with one horn and not the two horns on the good face. So I explored that a little bit more. I mean, what you could do is just kind of shave this off or shave that down. You'll have a bit of a gap if you were to place it back on this one. But what I found out more is, and I don't know if this is intended, I haven't talked to MMC, but you can actually pull these out. They were kind of hard to do, and I feel like they might have been glued in. But I slowly worked this out, and it's on a peg, so it's not the same molded piece. And this one was really hard. This one felt like it was really glued in. I had to work on with a spudger, and maybe because it was painted, it was stuck in there. But in any case, I was able to work it out. And lo and behold, you can plug this one back in, and you can get a two-horn look for your Cyclonus. And I think a lot of people will like that. I'm not even going to bother showing this one on the body because I don't think anybody's going to be using this one. I can't imagine anybody using this one because it looks pretty bad. But in any case, you can do that. Just pop it off the ball joint or socket here like I did before, and when you put it back in, you kind of do the same thing. You just push it down, and then you can slide it towards the front. But I think this is how I will display mine. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about articulation really quickly. So he is on a ball peg with the head, so you can get a decent amount. I feel like you run into interference once you start going like that, because the neck's at a weird angle, so you kind of go oddly like that. But in any case, you don't have to do any of that weird like neck positioning or movement for transformation, or at least not what I found like you had to do with some of the other versions of this mold. So like I said, I don't know if these horns are intended to move, but I ended up moving mine. That does make them a little bit looser, so just be aware of that. You may, if you want this permanently, maybe you want to glue that in or something, or future that in. The shoulders still are friction. You get interference here at the backpack, and you can come out like this. You have an upper bicep joint, double jointed elbows, which you can get really nice bend. His elbow guard can shift by itself separately from his lower forearm. You get a little bit of this flappy thing, which ends up being part of the wing. You can extend that if you'd like, or whatever. He does have a swivel and a pin here, so you can go down. All the fingers and the thumb are all one molded piece. They are softer plastic than I think we're used to getting. And then this is a remnant of the use of the other molds, but you can unplug the hand, but there's nothing to plug in. But I guess if you have some of the other figures, you can make use of their accessories. Coming to the upper body, he does have a friction waist. You can go 360 if you wanted to. Don't know why you would, but you can. His thigh armor, friction joints at the legs going forward and back, ratcheted going outward. And he has pretty good ratchets, so you don't have like that, straight, really wide stance, which is good. A little bit of play in the ratchets. He does have a thigh swivel that's separate from the armor. And then he has double jointed knees, which you're going to need for transformation. So he can get all the way like that, which is nice. This little wingy thing, you can do that. One thing I will mention, I mentioned it before, you can't really get a complete straight leg out of him. He has a natural kind of curve due to the way it's molded. Down here, he does have like an ankle armor piece that moves separate. And then he has a big honking ball joint down here, which gives you a lot of range. So you get like a downward tilt this much, you get a decent amount of up, and then you get the built-in ankle tilt since it's a ball joint. And then we talked about the backpack already. It compacts up decently well. And then again, if you fold it up, it actually doesn't look very bad, and you can't see it much from the front. But like I said, I kind of like mine like this, angled out like this. And I think that looks really kind of cool. I guess you could go out horizontal or outward like this, or up like this too. Again, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to go into all the infinite details and possibilities. One thing I will say is that one of the biggest pains was his shoulder joint here that you use for transformation. It's way tighter than the other versions of the mold, and I think this mold itself has better tolerances and I think actually even better plastic overall. So let me show you what I mean. I don't have all of my. I didn't bother bringing out my my deadlock or lockdown. I keep saying deadlock. But for example, his shoulder thing, like look how easily this goes in and out of that shoulder joint, and you can even see it's like separating. So I think they made this piece much harder plastic because it's much stiffer, and so like unless you like really kind of force it, it's actually pretty tight, and the ratchets are much tighter than this. Like I barely have to touch it. I could probably just swing it like that and it'll probably come out. This one's much tighter, so it's great that they made that improvement in the mold there. That was one of the biggest complaints. Still not a really good design because of the way it quote unquote locks in with this round nub going into this slot. But yeah, definitely a much needed improvement. Other robot mode things I wanted to talk about. Oh, so some other quick comparisons that I think most people will want. Let's go ahead and bring out this guy. So this is the, I think, Generation Cyclonus, but it has the Make Toys upgrade kit. So I like this. I really like this upgrade kit, and I think it does a much better job of looking like the More Than Meets the Eye version, even though it's not the same too, right? Like these details, the orange stuff and stuff like that, silver, that's all from G1. The More Than Meets the Eye is pretty plain. But I think it's like here, like that kind of cylindrical, curvish stuff there, and the wings like this, I think evoke more of a More Than Meets the Eye design. But you can see the difference in the swords. You know, pretty similar, but definitely different as well. Also, speaking of Make Toys' figures, you can bring out their tailgate, or I think they call him rear end. Is that what they call him? I don't remember. And then lastly, one thing I wanted to show was Decamus. He's obviously kind of crouched down a bit, but since this is their other figure that was released recently and featured in the comic, I thought I'd show off what they look like together. Alright, so let's get into transformation. If you did have the sword mounted on the magnets, just go ahead and take it off. You can transform it with it on, but why bother? So, first thing we'll do is deal with the arms. You're going to want to open the front and back piece because they tab into the rotating piece. Go ahead and rotate the fists so that they're like this, palm up or palm down, and then you can go ahead and re-tab these in. Like so. Flip out this little wing piece, and then for the orientation of the arms, you want to rotate at the upper bicep so that this elbow piece is there. Make sure, depending on how you had your armor transformed, that is also in line with that. And then you want this circular peg over here like this. Okay, and this is going to make use of the double jointed elbow, and as well as these tabs up here to tab in. And this is where they made another really nice improvement. I don't know how they did it, but a lot of people were struggling with getting these securely tabbed in without a gap. You can see here it works way better and way more securely without much fuss. Same thing on the other side. Again, just have the hand rotated in a way that it folds in nicely. Close that up, flip this, bicep, round peg facing out, and then double jointed elbows to get that pegged in. Alright, now it looks kind of like an amputee. I actually kind of like this look. It'd be kind of cool to have his shoulders being this wide. In any case, I don't know why I talked about that. The next thing we'll do is bring these shoulders down, but before we do that, because these kind of get difficult to move later, let's go ahead and flip these thigh pieces down. And you're going to want to rotate on this so that you come down and keep this orientation so that these pieces are, you know, facing up towards his head. Next thing we'll do is come to the backpack. The backpack is in 3 real main sections. First thing we'll do is flip this up. This cockpit is on a double hinge. You want to straighten it out. The reason is when you flip this up, you need to get this through. So you're going to go like this and then push on that double hinge again to get it to come back. At the same time, you'll go ahead and flip the rest of the backpack down. Open up these wings and flip this downward like so. And we'll peg all this in a second. Let's just deal with the rest of the backpack or the nose cone or fuselage first. So go ahead and unpeg. There's slots and pegs on the side. Here you can go ahead and form the nose cone. Now you can go ahead and lock the upper body in place. You can see it locks up here with these tabs. So lock that in place, close this up, and you can close up the cockpit. The wings also tab in much better, maybe because of the different ways that they treated the tolerances. I don't know why this one won't stay closed. There we go. So there's a tab here that goes into this, and then you'll see that one piece you fold out on the forearm is kind of keyed in a way that it locks in here. Okay, so first thing we'll do, and make sure the shoulder's all the way rotated back and level so that you can tab in securely there. This tab will go in here, and then this keyed piece will go in really nicely into this. So that works way better than before, and it all holds into place much better. And we'll see that once I keep transforming him. I can get that keyed piece of the wing, like so, the wingtip. Alright, now we're almost done. Coming to the lower legs, go ahead and flip out these wing pieces, point out the toes, come down like that on the ankle covers. The 2 legs will peg in together when you transform it, but I like doing it this way first. So you're going to want to make use of the double jointed knees, and you have one single tab here that goes into the bottom of the toe. So you want to tab that in. I find this is the easiest way. Tab it in, and then you'll see that there's a bit of a molded gap here. I go ahead and push on the top of the knee, and then hold the joint on the thigh, and push down, and you'll see it all kind of sits in place, right? It's that molded part of the knee goes in right where the wing is. So same thing for the other side. Make sure to use that lower knee joint. That's pretty critical. Just kind of feel around or look around for this tab up at the front. Hold it there. Hold the knee and hold the thigh. So pull down like that until this all kind of, this whole molded piece kind of sits in the correct orientation. Oh, this should tab in now. Sometimes it causes you a little bit of interference. So make sure this is up. Yeah. Tabbed in, and then as you can see, it kind of all fits in place. And then you get these kind of angled like so. I think the other edition, and I don't remember if the other versions of the mold have it. Yeah, so this is a new addition to, oops, sorry, this piece came untabbed. Another new addition was the addition of landing gear on the back of the forearms. Flip that out, and then you have one up here that flips forward. So now you can have Cyclonus fully transformed in his alt mode, rolling around. And as before, if you want to mount this on his wing, you can do that for storage. There's no other place that I could figure out that you could store this. It kind of looked like you could maybe jam it up here, but I guess you could. It would look kind of weird though. And you probably wouldn't enjoy that very much. And the alt mode is surprisingly much nicer looking than I was expecting. I know we've seen this mold before, but this actually looks like a really good alt mode for Cyclonus. I actually like it. I think this ball joint's, the toes acting kind of, there we go. But I actually like it quite a bit. There's a little bit of a gap on the front of here, which I wish I could tighten up just a little bit. But otherwise, it looks really nice. This is all keyed in really well. Like I said, this all holds in way more securely. And I think they did a really good job. This is definitely my preferred mode for Boreas. You can see the thrusters here, that his kneecaps have become the thrusters. These are kind of like thrusters too. But by and large, pretty clean. I mean, you do see his thighs kind of here and his abs and stuff like that. But no real complaints about this mode. I think as far as alt modes go, this is the most solid. Nothing's like untabbing or anything like that, or really difficult to get in place. And the additional landing gear is really nice. In terms of size, I don't really have anything in alt mode often, so let's bring out Generations Roadbuster just because I have him. And then of course Streak. So you get an idea how big he is. 1.5 streaks. He's pretty wide. The wingspan is decently wide. Yeah, sorry, I don't have any other alt mode figures right now. And if I didn't have to wake up like at 5 in the morning to go to New York for the Tamashii show this weekend, I would go ahead and transform Anubis, Death's Head, and their Lockdown. But I really just don't have time for that. I'll probably do a live stream of this once I get back sometime next week. Maybe next weekend or maybe during the week if I have time. Alright, so let's go ahead and transform this guy back into robot mode and finish off with final thoughts. So, pretty easy. Let's go ahead and flip up the landing gear. Flip this up. Flip this up. Easiest way is to go ahead and just untab at the toe, split the legs, and just really straighten them out. Flip up these ankle armor. Let's flip this up just a bit. Flip the feet down on the ball joints. Close these up. Alright. Next, on the wings, unkey or untab, whatever you want to call this section, and these two tabs here. And just keep them like this right now, for right now. Let's go ahead and untab these two tabs to bring out this piece, split the nose cone, and as I said before, this slots in here with a little peg. Alright, you can pull back on, oh, sorry, you should open this up, then you can pull back on this, and again, you want to pass this piece through, flip this up, and then get this all the way down. Then you can go ahead and bring this piece down, the cockpit down, tab this back in, and then do with the wings as you'd like. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and leave them like this, as they're my preference, like that. The shoulders, go ahead and rock them back up, and kind of, you know, place them into that weird rounded tab that goes in there. Pull down the arms, straighten them out, and orient them however you'd really like. Fold this down or not, whatever you want to do. And then open up both tabs so you can push through on the fist and get that around. Close that back up. Same thing on the other side. And you're going to be done. Pretty simple transformation. A little more, probably a little bit more complicated than the average MMC reformatted figure. Oh, sorry, on the thighs. But actually still fairly simple as far as transformations go. I will say the thing that I like, oh, final thoughts. So, final thoughts on this guy. I will say I'm more impressed with him than I thought I would be. I was pretty down about this mold before, I think like most people. A couple things that impressed me were the improvements in the mold, like the tolerances on the tabbing here, the tolerances on the shoulder, the overall transformation fit for alt mode. I thought that was really impressive. Things that got me down are the color. I think that's got most people down. It was surprising that they went with this color and this deco with these pink lines, They've done that with some other figures before too. I think like with their Tarn, their Coulter, they've done some like panel lining with pink. I don't really get it because it doesn't look like More Than Meets the Eye Cyclonus overall. The darker deco would help a lot, but even still, it just doesn't look like that Cyclonus. That said, it does look like a Cyclonus, and it looks kind of cool. There are some things that shout out Cyclonus, like these shoulder pieces up here, the face. And this sculpt in particular, not this one. This one's kind of poo-poo to me. All kind of worked. And I would say at an angle like this, he actually looks really nice. Straight on, he looks kind of derpy to me. He has really thick thighs that are way thicker than his chest or abdomen. But looking at him from the side, I think like at this kind of, 45-degree angle, 35-degree angle, he actually looks quite nice. I like the sword. It's much stiffer. I wish it was painted silver, at least on the blade here. That looks kind of weird, but I can't really complain too much about it. But I guess my biggest positives are that it's a much more improved, refined version of this mold, which we were all hoping for. Because the mold itself, I think, is kind of cool. I still think probably their lockdown is the best use of this mold. But in terms of overall finish, quality, and feel, this guy's way better than both of the previous releases. Yeah, if only he looked a little bit more the part of what we kind of wanted or expected. That said, if you guys want to pick this guy up for your collection, go ahead and click on the Toy Dojo link in the description below. They should be in stock fairly shortly. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below, or join the live stream once I figure out when I'm going to do it. It's going to be sometime next week, and then you guys can ask any questions you have there. But otherwise, it was a very quick and easy review to do this third version, and again, unexpectedly positive, still probably not up to the standards that most of us want. Alright, that's all for today, everyone. Have a good one.